Afro Tales Podcast is a part of the Connected Podcast Network. Chef. Yes, Glio. Don't you love how we get to share our stories and recipes? Yes, I enjoy it greatly. Do you know what makes it possible for everyone to hear us? Yes, Glio. Our voices, obviously. True, but it's also Anchor, a hosting platform that distributes the podcast to places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and others. Oh, yes. And isn't everything needed to make a podcast in one place? That's correct. And the best thing of all, Chef, it's free. Free, you say? Free. And all I had to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So, you just had to download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Yep, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and do what we're doing now. Fantastic, Grio. Simply fantastic. I know, Chef. I know.
Hello and welcome. I'm Aman Mazingo, and this is the AfroTales Podcast, a show that will explore the folklore, tales, myths, and legends of the African diaspora. Okay, so today we have another Old John tale. Yes, sound like Old John and Mr. Berkeley. And this one comes from the American South. And I hope you truly enjoy it. It was fun. So sit back, relax, and take a listen. The Burning Barn. The Burning Barn. During slavery time, there was a rich old master in Brunswick County that owned more than 300 slaves. Among them was a very smart slave named John. What I mean by smart is that he was a smooth operator. He knew what was happening. He came to be so smart because he would crawl under the master's house every night and listen to the master tell his wife what kind of work he was going to have the slaves doing the next day. When the master would come out of the house the next morning and begin to tell the slaves what kind of work he wanted them to do, Old John would say, "Wait just a minute, master, just a minute. I know exactly what you're going to have us do." So master would stop talking and let Old John tell the slaves what he had in mind for them to do that day. Old John could always tell the slaves exactly what master wanted them to do. And master was very surprised because he didn't know how Old John was getting his information. Old John wanted to prove to his master that he was the smartest slave on the plantation, because the smartest slave always got the easiest work. It only made sense. And Old John was tired of working so hard. Sometimes the master let the smart slaves sleep in the bed in the big house too. So Old John had been dreaming about how one day maybe he would get to sleep in a real bed instead of on an old quilt on his cabin floor. And it wasn't long before his dreams came true, because the next week after Old John had started prophesying what work the slaves were supposed to do that day, Old Master told his wife that he thought he was going to bring Old John to live in the house with him. And he did. And he gave him a room to sleep in with a big old bed and everything. Old John was so tickled He didn't know what to do with himself. Just think, living in the same house as old Massa. One winter night, when Massa and his wife were seated around the fire, the Massa called old John in to test his smartness. He pointed to the fire and said, "John, what is that?" "That's a fire, old Massa," said John. "No, it isn't either," replied old Massa. "That's a flame of evaporation." Just then a cat passed in front of the fire, and old Massa said, "John, do you know what that was that just passed in front of our fireplace?" "That's a cat, sir," replied John. Then old Massa said, "Nope, it is not either. That is a high baller sooner." Old John was getting tired of answering questions by this time. So he went over to the window and started looking out. The old master walked over to the window where John was and said, "John, what is it you're looking at through the window?" "I'm looking at the haystack, Master." Then old Master said, "That is not a haystack. That's a high tower." Then old John sat down in a chair and started getting ready to go to his room up in the attic to go to bed for the night. He didn't want to get the carpet all spotted up with dirt in the living room, so he started unbuckling his shoes and taking them off. When the old man looked and saw John taking his shoes off, he said, "What are those, John?" And John said, "Those are my shoes, Master." "No, they aren't either," said old Master. "Those are your tramps." Then old Master pointed through the archway to where a bed could be seen in his bedroom and said, "What's that I'm pointing to in there, John?" "That's a bed," said old John. "No, it is not either," said old Master. That's a flowery bed of ease. And I'm going right now and getting in it because we've all got a hard day's work coming up tomorrow. So old Master and old Missus went to the bedroom and went to bed. Then old John went up to the attic room where they had him sleeping, and he got into his big old bed. Just then the cat ran through the fire in the fireplace and caught on fire and started raising a howl. So John jumped out of bed and looked and saw the cat run out to the haystack and set it on fire. Old John was there at the window when he saw the cat on fire and the haystack on fire. He started yelling as loud as he could, "Master, Master, you better get about that flowery bed of ease and put on your tramps because your hot baller sooner has run through your flame of evaporation and set your high tower on fire." Old Master didn't move a peg. He just chuckled to his wife and said, "Listen to that high-class slave up there using all that Latin." Once more, old Tom yelled out, "Master, Master, I said you better get up out that flowery bed of ease and put on your tramps because your high baller sooner has run through your flame of evaporation and set your high tower on fire." Old Master chuckled to his wife again and said, "That sure is a smart slave, that John, isn't he? Just listen to him talking all that Latin up there again." Old John went on yelling like this 5 more times, but when he saw old Master wasn't getting out of bed, he yelled, "Master, you better get out that bed and put on your shoes and go out there and put out that haystack fire that your cat started, or else your whole damn farm's going to burn up." I guess that got old Master up pretty quick. The end. Okay. This story was hard to record because I was laughing through most of it, especially with the so-called Latin that Massa had Old John sing. But again, this is an Old John tale, and with Old John tales, it's going to show how black people are a lot smarter than, the slaves were a lot smarter than, the slave masters or white people try to give them credit for. And Old John showed that. Like, he did what he needed to do in order to live comfortably. And trying to use the master's so-called Latin, basically, the master gave him phrases that just made everything more complicated, trying to be funny, and he tried to use the master's words to get a message across to him, and the master wasn't understanding what he was trying to say until he had to just say it straight out plain. Say it plain, keep it simple, stupid, and tell Master what it was. And Master finally got off his butt and, and when hopefully he saved his farm, saved his barn and everything, because back then when stuff got caught on fire, they was gone pretty much, This story came from North Carolina, and I love it. It's funny because I have family in North Carolina right now. My grandfather and stuff is in North Carolina, and I'm actually, at the time of this recording, going to see him soon, in a few weeks. So I'm going to take this out there. I'm going to take this out there and see if he knows the story. Because, he's from that area, so I'm going to see if he has ever heard this story. He probably hasn't, but I'm going to see. I'm going to take it with me. But the message with this story is sometimes you just have to say things plainly, simply. You don't have to be all extra. Like Master was being extra with, trying to act intelligent and trying to, be smarter than what he really was. It's like, you ain't got to try to use these big words and phrases to make yourself seem better. Or, I'm prior Air Force, and one of our biggest things was work smarter, not harder, and that, like, for me, that's why I really resonate, not resonate, but I feel the Old John tales because they are guys that worked smarter. They used their intelligence to make their job easier instead of making their job harder, like Master in this story was trying to do. Like, and I would know a lot of people that do that. Like, I'm pretty sure you know a lot of people that do that. You can probably go to work right now and be like, this person, this person, this person, this person. You go home, my kids, my wife, my husband, my mom, my dad, whoever, always making things harder, and this is just an easier way to do it, And it's not saying the easy way is the cheap way of doing it. It's just the smarter way of doing it, or the smarter way of saying something, or the easier way to get a message across rather than making it hard for people. And that's what I like about this story. Like, he really just, like, you know what? No, I need to get you to understand. Your barn is burning, homie. Get your butt up and let's go. Because you ain't going to have nothing if you don't. But yeah, that's another Old John tale. And I love these Old John tales. They're intelligent guys. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time out to listen to another story. Next month is Halloween. So for the entire month of October, I will be doing spookier stories, more supernatural stories. So be prepared for that, all right? And again, thank you for listening. And until next time, have a great day. Thank you for your time. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or iTunes, or wherever you may listen to podcasts. You may also find us on Instagram and Facebook at AfroTalesPodcast, all one word, or on Twitter at AfroTalesCast. Please share, comment, like, leave a rating so others may find us just as you have. Again, I'm Amon Mazingo. This is Afro Tales Podcast, and until next time, have a great day.